Hello everyone, in the previous lessons, we discussed the physical factors that influence interface design, which are fundamentally the same.
These factors include screen size, user screen distance, screen direction, and input mode. In the first two lessons, we covered the first 3 points. In this lesson, we will focus on the final point, which is the impact caused by different input modes. Mobile input modes typically involve tapping the screen with fingers. Therefore, links or buttons must be designed to be large enough for easy selection. Interactions that rely on mouse hover, for example, are not applicable and should be replaced with visual cues to distinguish between clickable and non-clickable areas. The convenience of inputting text on a touchscreen is much lower compared to keyboard input. Although copying and pasting text is possible, such operations are not as effortless. If the web page content includes URLs, it is necessary to make them clickable for users. This can be achieved by bolding the text, changing its color, or adding special symbols. Additionally, the size of buttons should not be too small to ensure ease of use. As you can see in this image, different input modes lead to different interface designs. If you are designing for input modes like touch screens or remote controls, it is necessary to enlarge the size of elements. The differences between different areas must be more apparent, and there should be clearer visual distinctions between clickable and non-clickable elements. It is important to emphasize the use of visual design to differentiate between clickable and non-clickable areas.
You can better understand it through the following cases. In summary, it is crucial to visually indicate the selected areas.
This can be done by adding a background color, changing the color, or bolding the elements. Since there is touch input, there should also be feedback after the touch. Next, let's talk about the relationship between interaction and feedback. The term interaction refers to the paired chain reaction where the target object responds to the user's actions, and the response from the target object is referred to as feedback. When a user performs an action, there is an interaction between the user and the target object, resulting in specific feedback. This feedback then triggers an event, and the user, after understanding the meaning of the feedback, proceeds with the next action. When considering from the user's perspective, 3 types of information are likely to be generated. Where can I press? Where have I pressed? And what will happen when I press? These 3 types of information are crucial in understanding what events are triggered. The concept of press mentioned here can be touch or input. For instance, as mentioned earlier, creating a visual effect to indicate selection is also a result of interaction, specifically indicating where has been pressed. In the previous discussion on the impact of input modes, it was mentioned that besides using visual design to differentiate clickable and non-clickable areas because of the touch input mode, it is also important to design links or buttons with a sufficient size, so it is necessary to enhance the recognizability of the buttons. Let's look at the following cases. The buttons in these designs are shaped differently based on their functions. They are also designed with appropriate colors that match the overall style and tone, and some even use gradients. To make the buttons stand out, they are given shadows and thickness to create a sense of depth. These are elements that you can learn from. Many of you have designed buttons and icons that can be pressed, but they may lack refinement in their design and need improvement in terms of size and visibility. In most of your apps, you have a setting page where you can design a switch button to add some fun and interactivity. Take a close look at the images below. There are examples of flat design, playful design, textured design, and realistic design.
You can refer to these examples and add your own style according to your preferences.
Observe the last interface dominated by red color. It may appear simple, but the buttons are well differentiated in terms of size and indications of where they can be pressed and where they have been pressed. When it comes to smartphone operation, the concepts of where can I press and where have I pressed may vary, depending on the input modes such as the mouse and touch panel. These differences can significantly impact the interface design across different devices. Compared to the previous 2 points, what will happen when I press can result in different outcomes depending on the type of device. For example, clicking on a product image to enlarge it, such interface changes are essential because emphasizing interface changes helps users perceive what exactly happened. These designs don't make much sense to the computer itself, but they play a vital role in allowing users to directly understand the interface's operation. This kind of feedback is meaningful. Therefore, in addition to improving the recognizability of buttons, it is also important to enhance interactivity, which encompasses the understanding of what will happen when I press. For example, in this payment interface, when you click the Pay Now button, you will be directed to a results page that displays whether the payment was successful or not. This is an example of interaction. Next, you will see numerous examples where interaction results in different pages. Although the content may be different from what you are working on, the main focus should be on the design methods and the use of graphic animations that can be learned from these examples. In addition to that, we also need to enhance the interactivity of the buttons themselves. What does this mean? For example, in this example with bottom tab style navigation, the button appears as a plus sign when it's not pressed. However, once it's pressed, it transforms into an X symbol. Another example is in this interface, where an unchecked option is represented by a gray square. Once clicked, it transforms into a purple square with a white check mark on top. Earlier, we mentioned the importance of designing switch buttons to enhance recognizability. Next, let me show you some excellent examples of animated switch button effects. These examples align perfectly with the concept of enhancing the interactivity of the buttons themselves. The designs showcase not only interesting elements but also smooth transitions between them. If you find any designs that you like, feel free to capture them for inspiration and reference. I think the sharing feature is indispensable in every group's app interface, and it is also a commonly used button. So, how can we make the share button interesting?
At the end of this class, let me show you some examples of share buttons. That's all for this lesson.
Please take the time to digest the content and complete the homework assignment. 1. Distinguish clickable and non-clickable areas through visual design. Where I can press and where have I pressed. 2. Enhance the recognizability of all buttons, including switch buttons, interface selection buttons, icon buttons, etc. 3. Enhance interactivity, that is, what will happen when I press. Create an animation that lasts for 5 seconds or less. 4. Enhance the interactivity of buttons. Create an animation that lasts for 5 seconds or less.